Hey VC, I'm Jamie. Welcome back. We are back with another video. And as you saw at the beginning of this video, a few photos there, my wife and I were in Montreal just recently visiting our daughters, or two daughters. I've got three kids, two daughters who both live in Montreal. They enjoy it there. And so we went down, drove down about an 8-hour drive to Montreal to once again see them and enjoy the Montreal Jazzfest, which is always very cool. So we were there for the sort of the Canada Day long weekend of this year. So that was, we drove down on the Thursday, had an absolutely gorgeous day on Friday, and took in a couple of the free shows. They have lots of free shows for Jazzfest, ticketed events as well, but it's always neat to be outdoors with all the people at the one square. I can't remember the name of the square. It's where most of the big jazz performances happen. And saw two Corys that day, if you will. I was kind of looking at the itinerary in terms of some of the artists that looked more interesting or whatever. I didn't know a lot of the artists, but in terms of on the Jazzfest website, you can click on it and get like little videos. So I took in two Corys, if you will, on that Friday. So we saw Corey Henry, an American artist, really into funk, soul, jazz. He had the whole crowd just bopping. Terrific artist. And then another Corey, Corey Wong, and his full band performing that evening, and it was all instrumental, kind of jazzy, funky soul, but with all horns. So it was fabulous right through that day. Huge crowds. Now, great weather on Friday, and then it just poured rain on the Saturday. There wasn't anybody specifically I was interested in on the Saturday, so we just spent that day just visiting brew pubs and things like that. So again, we had a very nice weekend. Then we went back on Sunday. So yeah, it's a long drive back and forth, but of course took a little bit of time to do some vinyl hunting, and so I went to just the one store this time. I went to, I don't know if you probably can't see it here, Beatnik Records, which is a really cool record store. Really like that place, and yeah, so let's take these out of the bag, and these are all generally reasonably priced. One or two that was like, oh, okay, that's really awesome to find. So again, there's nothing in terms of French-Canadian artists, but we've got a few Canadian records here, so let's get to it. Off the top, in terms of reasonably priced, I didn't have this 38 Special album. This is a 38 Special and Rockin' Into the Night. Of course, great Southern rock. Happy to have that in my collection. And this one, this is a 38 Special and the album Rock and Roll Strategy. And I didn't even know that this was released on vinyl. This was one of their later records. It had the ballad that is called Second Chance, which is on this one. So happy to pick that up. Again, they were very reasonably priced. Luba record, I have yet to, was searching for a while, for whatever reason, wasn't able to come across it until now. So I picked up Luba, and this is All or Nothing. Luba, great Canadian artist. She hasn't performed in quite some time, and it's interesting, like Amanda Marshall's kind of back out, and you know, you see Sass Jordan, but you haven't seen Luba perform in quite some time. She, a great, terrific singer, big voice, and a number of radio hits. And on this one, we've got Giving Away a Miracle, No More Words, just a terrific album, and it's really nice to pick this up. Again, when you're kind of getting into this time, getting into the late 80s, where kind of the vinyl was getting harder and harder to find and press as many copies, so that was cool. Picked up a Ray Thomas album, Ray Thomas from the Moody Blues, and he put out a few albums, and I wasn't familiar necessarily with this one. Again, he was the flautist with Moody Blues, so again, very Moody Blues style, very genteel and lovely to listen to. Okay, this is one I paid a little bit for, but I had to pick it up because I don't often come across the Smiths. This is their debut album, and really happy to see that in very nice condition. Again, of course, with Morrissey, Johnny Marr on guitar. I don't have any Smiths in my collection until now. Had the original inner sleeve and everything like that on Sire Records, so really happy to pick that up. Okay, a little bit more Canadian content, if you will. Picked up Sweeney Todd. Very nice. And this is, of course, with Nick Gilder, Sweeney Todd Canadian band with Nick Gilder lead vocals. And, of course, this has the great song Roxy Roller. Fabulous kind of, he had such an interesting voice and sort of that glam rock feel to it. And then they had seen that I'd picked this up because when you take the records up to the counter at Beatnik, they go through all it and write it down in their notebooks and look at the records. And then they said, we do have another Sweeney Todd record, and so they did bring forth Sweeney Todd, and this is If Wishes Were Horses. And so Nick Gilder had left the band, and their new singer, again, is not in the best of condition, is this fellow, Bryan Adams. That's right, Bryan Adams. One of his first big starts was in the band Sweeney Todd, and of course he was then known, here's the gatefold, as Bryan Guy Adams. So a little rock and roll trivia. No big hits on this album, but I think he was only, gosh, like maybe 16 years old when this came out. And they also re-recorded a version of Roxy Roller as a single, but I think those are the only two full-length albums for Sweeney Todd. And then, of course, Bryan Adams would go on. And one more from Beatnik Records found this, The Best of the Move, double album, again, fairly reasonably priced. And so, you know, this is Move with Roy Wood and Bev Bevan. And, of course, members that included Jeff Lynne would go on to form ELO. So really nice, really happy to pick up a double album, Best of the Move. Now, I also picked up one more record from Beatnik Records, which was very odd. When they went through, as they say, they go through all the albums and write it down and that sort of thing. And then he decided to throw this one in for free, and it cost only $3. And this is an album I wasn't familiar with. Again, a Canadian artist, Murray McLaughlin. I wasn't familiar with the album Windows. Murray McLaughlin, kind of a folk rock, folk country kind of artist. Hits like Down by the Henry Moore, The Farmer Song. Was not familiar with this record. So as you can see, the track listing there. And then still with the inner sleeve. And then I take it home to discover that it is only a 7-inch single from the album. So there's only two songs, Happiness and I Hate Your Gun. So this is not the full-length album, even though the sleeve is the full-length album. And then this is clearly the full-length album, but inside is only the 7-inch single. And it was kind of one of those, like they would have looked at all the records. And granted, initially it was only $3, and in fact he threw it in for free, so I didn't lose anything. But at the same time, I don't know, why would just sell it like that, or just say, are you aware this is only the single? I'm just surprised they didn't say anything. So that's just kind of, But otherwise, some fabulous finds at Beatnik Records, and a fabulous weekend in Montreal just recently, seeing Montreal Jazzfest. Hopefully we can do that again. It is a long drive, though, and so I'll throw this in as well. With my wife and I on the long drive, we like to listen to CDs along the way, so what I do is get a whole bunch of CDs. I always take way too many for the drive and pop one in. When it's done, pop the next one in, and we kind of almost do like a random pick. So we put all I put all the CDs that I've picked into a bag, and then my wife just kind of grabs it, and that's the next one we're going to listen to. So these aren't in order, but these are the CDs that we listen to for There and Back. Again, in no particular order. I tended to pick a lot of greatest hits and things like that. So just as a fun thing, these are the CDs we listen to There and Back. So Rolling Stones, Best of, Paul Simon, Greatest Hits. We also heard Supertramp's Greatest Hits. Best of from Colin James, a Canadian blues rock singer. We also heard Ultimate Santana. That has a lot of the sort of later Santana songs, like Why Don't You and I, also The Game of Love, but it also includes like Black Magic Woman and a few of those kind of as well. Van Morrison, this is the Best of Van Morrison Volume 2. There you go. We also heard Linda Ronstadt's Greatest Hits. We heard Genesis, Turn It On Again. Again, these were the random polls. Journey, Greatest Hits. Melissa Etheridge, sort of a best of, which is quite cool, quite nice. We also heard Joe Cocker, one of the many best of Joe Cockers. We also heard The Essential Cars. And then last and not least, because it wasn't necessarily in this order, Bob Seger's Greatest Hits. So that covered the journey from where we live to Montreal and back. So there you go. So again, thanks so much for dropping by, and we'll chat again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.